My name is Bob Weir. I'll be the moderator for this evening's candidate forum. The Cross Timbers Gazette is Denton County's largest locally owned newspaper, mailed to 55,000 homes and businesses each month, including every mailbox in Bartonville. The slogan is, "Local lives here." You can also read the latest Southern Denton County news online anytime at www.crosstimbersgazette.com, also on their Facebook and Twitter pages. Let me make this comfortable here. All right, early voting begins on Monday, April 25th, and ends on Tuesday, May 3rd. On Election Day, Saturday, May 7th, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Visit votedenton.gov or call 940-349-3200 for information on your specific polling place. We begin with the Bartonville town candidates first, and after we finish the questioning with them and their opening and closing statements, we'll go to the mayoral candidates. So I would now like to welcome and introduce the two Bartonville Town Council Place 2 candidates. We have Matt Chapman and Rachel Neese. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. After the opening statements, I'll ask the candidates questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question, and we'll also allow for an optional 30-second rebuttal. And finally, there will be 1 minute for closing statements. Up front here, we have Justin Buck, who will be our timekeeper tonight. And now we will begin our 1 minute opening statements with Matt Chapman.
All right, well, thank you. What was this one? It's hot. Okay, thank you. As you said, my name is Matt Chapman. I live over on Gibbons Road. Listen, I thought a lot about what I would say in 1 minute, and it's not a very long time, so what I will say is that I'm not going to talk about the issues that we're going to talk about later, because we'll get to that, but listen, the reason I'm running for town council is what I think I want to spend this time on. When I moved here, or my family moved here, they're sitting right here in front of me, we had a fire in our home 45 days after we moved in. We were standing alone in the street, cold, tired, scared, didn't know what to do, and this town stood up and embraced us like we had lived here for generations. When the town did that, it reminded me of something I experienced in my military career, which is the deep level of community that you can't make up. It doesn't exist anywhere else, except here and then in my previous experiences. So the reason that I'm sitting up here is that I want to help protect that community. I want to make sure that we are focused on the right things and that we stay in an environment that we can support and thrive with a community that cares about each other. And I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Matt. Rachel Neese, your 1 minute opening, please.
Perfect. Hi, good evening. I'm glad that you're here, and I know I've met quite a few of you, and if I haven't, I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. I honestly started my journey to try to be a council person right where you're sitting. I was showing up at meetings, listening, and honestly just feeling like my voice wasn't quite heard. I have been here about 4 years, and I love Bartonville. I grew up riding horses here since I was like 5 years old, 4 doors down from me. It's a very special place to me as well. I want to protect this town and be proactive in that, not just hoping to keep it the same, but try to fight for what we have. We have a great sense of community. Everyone I've met here has been a blessing. Just really excited to serve and to be a voice and to listen, and how I would have loved to be listened to. So please feel free to approach me, ask me questions. Sorry, stop. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel.
Sorry.
Okay. We'll now begin a question and answer format. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer the question in 1 minute. We also will allow for the optional 30-minute rebuttal, and questions will be asked in rotating order. I'm sorry, 30-second rebuttal.
I can
this
talk
could
for
be
a
a
while
long
if
night.
you'd like, but that's a lot.
A 30-second rebuttal, if you would like. All right, we'll begin the questioning with Matt Chapman. And the first question is, the 2037 Bartonville Comprehensive Use Plan is required to be reviewed this year. Are there any parts of the plan that you want to change, and why?
Well, I could answer that very shortly and just say no. I believe that our comprehensive use plan is what we need to protect Bartonville. It's utilizing what we have in the documentation today that we've been following for years that's going to keep us in a condition to keep the rural feel that we have, to keep our larger lots on the interior of our town and protect the things that we love the most.
Thank you, Matt. Same question for Rachel Neese.
I also believe that we should protect the land use plan. I do not believe that there are any edits that I would like to see happen. I believe in the lot sizes of a minimum of 2 acres. I wish they were a minimum of 5 acres, but I heard that's not quite feasible. But I do not have any changes at this time that I would like to see.
Thank you, Rachel. Next question, we begin with you, Rachel, and that question is, the explosion of new home construction in our neighboring communities is causing an increase in the volume and speed of cut-through traffic that is negatively impacting the safety and serenity of our community. Do you have any ideas on how to discourage cut-throughs and eliminate speeding and careless driving on our streets?
I do. So this hits pretty close to home for me. I live on the corner of Broome and McMakin, McMakin being a very, obviously very busy thoroughfare. I believe looking at it, decreasing the speed limit is definitely a key to some of the cut-through roads. Even though it's not a popular idea by a lot of people, I think it would make the roads quite a bit safer. But I think that the roads need to be patrolled a little bit better, a little bit more police involvement, so that when we do decrease the speeding limit, there needs to be kind of an action for that if people are breaking it. People go 60, 70 miles an hour down that road at times and just fly by, and it's very dangerous to a lot of our community that rides horses down that. I know it's the same problem with Porter, so speed limits, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Same question, Matt Chapman.
Yeah, to no surprise, we have a similar position on this.
Yeah.
I think that the challenges that we have in town with our flow-through traffic are directly connected to the enforcement of the laws that we have in place today. There's speed limits that are there for a reason. Those were done by a committee and determine what the speed's appropriate for the road based on populations and everything else. If we were enforcing those in a way that was sustainable, and that could lead us to a whole other topic about how we're staffing our law enforcement here in town, but ultimately it's about enforcing the laws that we have and penalizing those who break them. If you ticket everyone who drives down Porter at 70 miles an hour, they'll stop driving down Porter. There's probably several other ways that we could do that, and I don't do traffic studies for a living, so I'd have to dig into the information we have today and initially build a group and a committee that would help us identify the best way to resolve the traffic flow-through issues.
Thank you, Matt. The next question, we begin with you, Matt. And the question is, what would you propose to help with a large amount of trash in bar ditches? Should the town pay for cleanup? Should businesses be responsible?
I don't think the town should pay for cleanup. We should probably look into that, but ultimately it's on us to clean up Bartonville. And when I say us, I don't mean me as an individual. I don't mean me as a candidate for town council place 2. I mean us as a town. I'll give you the perfect example of that. My son, his favorite thing to do when he makes a mistake is clean bar ditches. You might see him rolling around on his little dirt bike with his bucket and his picker, and he's just cleaning the bar ditches up and down up and down Gibbons. It's up to us, and I'd be happy to set up some time for us to volunteer as a group, and anybody who wants to help out, jump in and help out, and we'll go clean the bar ditches. I'll be the first one in line.
Thank you, Matt. Same question, Rachel Neese.
I also do not think that the community needs to be paying for that. I actually somehow randomly know a little bit about the answer, but there are pretty good studies saying that a lot of the trash, like 90% of trash that you find on the side of the road actually comes from garbage companies. There was a pretty big traffic study on that, and so I think working with people that are responsible for that would be a place to look into and see if they could help us. I agree with Matt. I mean, I think that responsibility lies a lot on the homeowner. Unfortunately, I'm out there, same as Matt's kid, picking up trash out of our ditches as well. It's not fun to see how many beer bottles are on the side of the road, and I do think that is a problem, probably not so much in Bartonville citizens, but drive-through traffic. Oh my gosh.
Finish. We have 30 extra seconds. Finish your thought.
Oh, I do. Okay.
It's okay. If you're in the middle of a sentence, you see the stop, you can finish the sentence.
Sorry, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Okay.
We begin the next question with you.
Thank you.
And the question is, what would you change about the sewer access in Bartonville? Do you think it should be brought across McMakin Road?
From what I've learned about the sewer system since kind of trying to endeavor council is I do not think at this time it is a good idea to consider that. I know we're trying to protect the community feel here, and sewer does threaten the possibility of expansion to sustain houses on smaller lot sizes because of septic. So I personally do not agree with it going to access. There's also a cost expense of switching from septic to sewer to a residence. I know those can be extremely costly, and I would never want anyone to be forced into that kind of penalty as well.
Thank you, Rachel. Same question, Matt Chapman.
Yeah, this is going to sound redundant, but the short answer is no. We do not want to bring sewer into Bartonville. Not now and not ever. It's probably one of the single greatest risks that we have against our current land use plan and how we keep Bartonville rural and how we keep the feel that we have. As soon as that crosses McMakin, we're in trouble. And that's a threat that it's on us to manage. When I say us, again, at this point I would mean provided that I moved into the seat that I'm running for. It's on us to manage that and to mitigate that risk and to keep that at bay. That's what we're here for, and I think that that's probably one of the greatest risks we have today.
Thank you, Matt. We begin the next question with you. Question is, what is your opinion of the town's police department, and is there room for improvement?
There's always room for improvement on anything. As we move into, as May 1st comes around, we'll have 24-hour coverage, which is a great thing. It's crucial for the safety of this town that we do that. There's probably opportunities to continue growing in that respect. We have to be very, very conscious about it and fiscally responsible with how we spend the town's money. But law enforcement is what allows us to keep the town safe. And if we want to mitigate traffic, as I mentioned earlier, one of the best ways to do that is to increase patrols, but we need more officers to increase patrols. For instance, if on a late night shift someone has to take a drunk driver to Denton County, we now no longer have coverage in town. So there's a risk there, and what I do as a profession is risk mitigation, so looking at those things and seeing an opportunity to improve there is something that I think is on the forefront for us. Now, again, we'll have to make sure that we take it to you, because it's up to the town as to how that should be managed.
Thank you, Matt. Same question for Rachel Neese.
Sure. Again, redundant. I agree with Matt's assessment. I believe that there's always room for improvement. These guys, in my opinion, and lady officer, they have been incredible to work with as a homeowner, being in this town. For any sort of concerns that I've had, they've always been, at the call, at the house, anytime that I needed them. I do think it's important to fully, to get fully staffed so we don't have to rely on outside communities to support Bartonville. I know that causes some tension and some stress with other, officers having to patrol our area. I do think that there could be improvements in just, again, enforcement of traffic laws, like we stated, just for safety reasons.
Yeah, if I can just add one quick thing in that little 30-second window we have would be around, I think that the partnerships with our neighboring communities are crucial, especially in law enforcement, because when we do have to do things like transport someone elsewhere in the county, it's relying on those local law enforcement partnerships to support the town where we don't have that space covered.
Okay, thank you. For the next question, we begin with Rachel Neese. Question is, Bartonville is currently one of the only communities in Denton County, as well as North Texas, to allow the use of fireworks. Where do you stand on continuing to allow this activity?
It's not the first time I've been asked this question, and I will try to put my, personal feelings aside. I'm a veterinarian. I have animals. I hate them as a veterinarian. I see how freaked out it gets everyone's pets. My own horses tried to kill themselves in the barn last year. But what fixed that was a good conversation with my neighbor and going over and just asking him if he could give me a few minutes, to kind of get a hold of my situation. And I worry about regulations in Bartonville and over-regulating Bartonville. I think that, we have to be careful of what we want to say yes or no to. I do believe that I don't like them, but I don't know if I should have the right to tell my neighbor on their many acres what to do. But I think that, again, it comes back to we're a really good, tight-knit group community of people here. And hopefully some neighborly respect would solve that problem.
Thank you, Rachel. Same question, Matt Chapman.
Yeah, okay, so bottom line up front is I'm a disabled combat vet, so I have a love-hate relationship with fireworks. I love them desperately. 4th of July is my favorite holiday every year. Birthdays aside, everything else, 4th of July is my favorite thing in the world. It also, I have a very similar response to her horses did when they go off unexpected. Listen, I agree with Rachel, and you guys are gonna hear this a lot, is that I think that the policy we have in place today is probably the right way to go for now. There's always opportunity to improve and see what we can do better to support the town and what's best for everyone in town. And again, talking about communicating with your neighbors, I've let my neighbors know, like, hey, if you want to shoot fireworks, great, just give me a heads up so I don't dive through my living room window and try to roll underneath the table. It's just a matter of the town working together. My son's laughing at me because he's seen it happen. It's just a matter of doing things together as a community as opposed to trying to regulate what we're all doing.
Thank you, Matt. Next question, we begin with you, Matt, and the question is, what are your thoughts about the proposed Flower Mound Ranch project and how it would affect the town?
Oh, goodness. We're talking about First Ranch, I imagine,
Yeah.
all of that land use. Flower Mound's going to do what Flower Mound's going to do, and unfortunately we don't have the ability to influence that except for through relationships with the people who will be building on that property. So there's an opportunity for us to communicate with them and try to express the fact of what we're doing in town is to keep our rural way of life, this little nest egg, this tiny little piece of heaven that we all live in. I don't like the idea of grand development. I don't like it close to the town. I certainly don't want it in the town, but I understand that Flower Mound's going to do this. So the way that we can best affect that is going to be to work with the developer or whoever we have to in the town there, that municipality, to keep traffic flow out of town, to keep their turnarounds there built in their area so they can use their roads as they want to, but they stay and leave our little piece of heaven alone.
Thank you, Matt. Same question, Rachel Neese.
I also agree with Matt. The First Ranch poses quite the traffic, problem through and around our town. A master plan community on all sides now, it seems. I think it does affect Bartonville as well, because there are some extraterritorial zones on the west side of our town that are also included in there. And so it's making sure those residents are taken care of in those 400 acres, making sure that there's no cut-through roads going into town. I think that it's very important to negotiate with Flower Mound for that specific area and make sure that the people out there, in Bartonville are fairly compensated for that, and to fight that we're not going to have high rises right behind our residents. So I think that there are things that we need to get involved with in that community.
And
Thank you.
If I could just add that, the
rebuttal.
council's done a great job up to this point, where the ETJ that we have there is currently going to remain the way that it is, but it's going to be up to us as we move forward to maintain that relationship and keep that land so that you can keep your cattle out there, right?
Okay, thank you. For the next question, we begin with Rachel Neese. How important is it to serve on a board or commission prior to running for a seat on town council?
Well, I do think it's important. I have never been on a political board before. I have been on medical committee boards, which are are a little bit different. Being a veterinarian, again, I think that my experience comes with the ability to critically think and evaluate situations. I have been told many times in Bartonville that we only get one chance. And I do that every day in work. It is life and death. And so I do believe that there are certain things that, yes, I would have loved to be on boards and political boards, but I do feel like I am able to learn and to serve, this town with the skill sets that I have from different areas.
Thank you, Rachel. Same question, Matt.
I think it's very important, and it's a little bit self-serving, and I'll be honest about that. I currently serve on the Crime Control and Prevention District. I've been involved with the town now for some time. I've been able to get some experience on what happens in a meeting, what happens in these individual councils and how they work and how we go through the process of getting things, recommendations from those districts and boards to then go to the council for approval. There's a tremendous amount of value there, as well as in combination, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the service that she's in. And what I do now in my profession as well brings a level of experience on sitting on many boards and panels within my organization that we manage our money the same way. We manage several other different parts of our business, specifically around utilizing councils that are on different portions of our organization. So I think it's very important to have some experience in town as we move through the prospective ladder, so to speak. But again, that in combination with my professional experience is very valuable.
Thank you, Matt. We begin the next question with you. Question is, under what, if any, circumstances would you approve lowering the town's minimum residential lot size of 2-acre home sites?
None.
Brevity is...
I mean, I can repeat myself. I can say it again.
That's good.
I'm
like
happy.
brevity. That's great.
Sorry, I tend to be overly brief. I could say it again. Listen, I don't have any desire whatsoever to change our current land use plan. There is a tremendous amount of risk if we drop anything lower than 2 acres. I know that there are some properties in town that were there before these things were decided, and those are fine. I'm happy with that, and it's great. I love the way that Bartonville is today. It's not appropriate to make changes. Anything less than 2 acres puts us at a tremendous amount of risk.
Thank you, Matt. Same question, Rachel Neese.
None.
Go for it.
Exactly the same. I have no desire to see land under 2 acres. It's what I get to tell people at work when I go downtown. I'm like, we're in our little Wild West out here. I just love it. It's our own paradise. And I know everyone feels lucky to be here, and I've said it before, I wish that we could make the minimum 5 acres. I don't think that's possible. But I will never vote for something that's under 2 acres.
Thank you, Rachel. The next question, we begin with you. The question is, do you believe a tattoo parlor should exist in Bartonville?
God. Oh gosh, I want to meet the person who wrote this question.
Somebody handed it to me. We have the best anyway.
I do not see that as a fitting need for the people of Bartonville, in my personal opinion. Not to be anti-tattoos, they're great if you have them, but no, I don't think that would serve the population very well. Unless we took a vote and it was a huge majority the other way, so I don't know.
Thank you, Rachel. Same question for Matt.
Yeah.
So funny.
Listen, I'm covered in tattoos, I'll be honest with you, right? I'm a military guy. I've got them down both wrists. I love tattoos. It's not appropriate. A tattoo parlor doesn't fit into our town. It probably never has, and it probably never will. And that's coming from somebody who, I'm proud of my tattoos. I love tattoo parlors. Spend a tremendous amount of time in them in my younger days, but it's not appropriate for our town.
Thank you, Matt. We'll start the next question with you, and the question is, what legal rights does the council have to disallow a business in Bartonville when there's no ordinance against it?
What legal right does the council have to disallow a business?
If there's no ordinance against it. I just read them. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
so what I'm going to say is I don't know what I don't know, and I would have to dig into that on where the legal stance is on things that are not covered directly by an ordinance.
Okay, same question would be for Rachel Neese.
Is this about the tattoo parlor again?
No, I don't know about that.
Sorry. I'm just gonna have to hold it. I also agree with Matt. I would have to defer and do some more research on that question. I'm so sorry, I do not know, but we can get you the answer.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that, that's why we have a town attorney, and I would default to his guidance at that point and
Sure.
let him interpret what our.
Okay, the next question would be for Rachel, and it is, do you believe the police department needs to stay the same, reduce officers, or increase officers?
I was reading on this as far as what we need hours-wise for full coverage with the amount of officers, and ideally it was about 6 to 7 for full-time coverage. I believe we're at 5 and approved for 6, and so if we can get 6 and if the budget allows that, which they approved it, I do think growth to that point would be beneficial, so we can again cover the questions or concerns that we had regarding our safety and traffic violations, and having 24/7 coverage in Bartonville. So I guess it would be to be fully staffed for what we're approved for, or one more if the budget allows.
Thank you, Rachel. Same question from Matt Chapman.
Again, we're in alignment here. I think that the most important thing that we can do is provide a safe environment in Bartonville when it comes to our residents and where we live, and my kids are growing up, and several other people's children are growing up in this town. And listen, I know that we'll have 24-hour coverage on May 1st, and that's important, and it's a step in the right direction, but if we need to continue to bolster that group, there's 1 million studies around police officers per capita, police officers per business types that influence how much law enforcement should be in a town. There's probably a lot of work that could be done to determine what the right path is forward, but ultimately it's about the safety of the town, and I would vote in order to protect the town.
Thank you, Matt. I now hold the final question before we go to a closing statement. So it goes to you, Matt. What is the biggest issue in this election that has not been adequately addressed?
Oh, goodness. The biggest issue in this election that has not been addressed tonight? I think we've dove into quite a bit of it. I don't know. We have the same views on most of this stuff, so it's difficult to find something that we haven't already talked about. I'm just going to defer to
Sure.
Rachel.
Oh gosh.
Okay,
Technology.
Rachel,
Sorry,
would you like to handle that?
I'm trying to think. I know we just covered quite a bit. I think we've covered our big talking points for this evening.
Well, that's good, because that means that the Cross Timbers Gazette did a good job of getting those questions from the
Good job,
community.
Max.
All right. Okay, so that concludes the questioning. We'll move to closing statements. 1-minute closing statements will be reverse order, so we begin with Rachel Neese. You have 1 minute.
Perfect. Well, I am glad that I had the chance to talk to you this evening, and hopefully you got to know me a little bit better. I know our views are very similar, and Matt and I got to talk last week, and he's a great guy, and I think this town is served well either way. I think that for me, moving forward here, I hope to kind of tell you guys that I am here as a person, a working woman who wants to be a part of the town, who loves it. I'm trying to keep a woman's voice on council, and I think it's important for that to be in the town. I know it's a little bit different, my route here, but I do feel like my biggest thing that I can bring to the table is, listening to concerns, and being listening and again being a voice for the people of Bartonville.
Thank you, Rachel. Matt Chapman, your 1-minute closing, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. So again, I'd like to say thank you guys very much for spending your time here. I know there's lots of other things we'd rather be doing on a Monday night than listening to me talk, or either one of us talk for that matter. Listen, the easy way for me to wrap this up is that the military taught me one thing, or lots of things, but one of the things they taught me was about core values. And the primary one that I took away from that is I will always place the mission first. And that's aside from myself, aside from anything else. And when I take on a role like serving this community, that becomes the mission, and I will put that first every time. I have a tendency to be too brief, as we noticed earlier, but I tend to choose the hard right over the easy wrong, and brevity tends to keep me there. So I say all of that to say thank you again for being here. Again, I think I agree with Rachel in the fact that no matter which way this goes, this town will be in good shape. But I'm happy to be representing the town if you guys give me the chance to do that.
Thank you, Matt. And I want to thank both council candidates. Could we give them a round of applause, please?
Thank you. How do I get this back in here?
Now, folks, before we bring up the mayoral candidates, Bartonville Mayor Bill Scherer would like to come up and say a few words. Mayor?
Thank you. So a couple of things. One is, look around. We've never had close to this, not by orders of magnitude. So I applaud you for being on your first one. So a couple of things. One is the town attorney has determined that the town can no longer sponsor meet the candidates. So what we've done is I got engaged in this particular one, talked to the Lantana Community Church, and thank you very much. And looks like Calvary's run off on us. Oh, there you go. Thank you very much, A, for this, for the support of the town cleanup, and for everything that you do. Every time we ask for your help, you're always there, and we greatly appreciate it. So round of applause. And then thanks to Max and the Cross Timbers Gazette for pulling this together. So I want to thank you all also, because again, my time is coming to an end. I'll tell you what, it has been a pleasure and an honor to serve with this. We may not have always agreed, but we always discussed it with fairness, honesty, and candor. And again, I appreciate everything you guys done. Love this town. I'll tell you what, we got two great candidates. So again, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for showing up tonight, and God bless you and God bless this town. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, could we have the mayoral candidates come up, please? That's Jacqueline Carrington and Bridgette Nelson. If you would have Jacqueline in the first seat and Bridgette in the second. Thank you.
Thank you. Right? I'm so short. That's good. Yeah, I might do that.
All right, we're now going to begin with the candidates for mayor of Bartonville. We have Jacqueline Carrington and Bridgette Nelson. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, and then we'll begin with the questions. I probably will want to know if they would like a tattoo parlor in Bartonville. Start that right out. Okay. If you would begin, Jacqueline Carrington, with your 1 minute opening, please.
Sure, thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I'd like to thank the church again for hosting, and I'd like to thank the Gazette for moderating. Thank you. I've lived here 32 years, moved here for the country environment, which is why pretty much we're all here for that. I would like to help continue to protect our country atmosphere and environment, the equestrian centers and all the farm animals. I think leadership is about respect, integrity, and transparency. I think our biggest challenge facing our town is development and mitigating that and trying to work with controlled growth. I think if we keep our 5-acre minimums intact, then we can still continue to have the animals and the open spaces. And I'd like to see more citizen involvement in our government. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline Carrington. Your opening statement, Bridgette Nelson.
Hey, everybody. It is so great to see you all here. You know, I grew up in Southern California, the rumors are true, and it was really cow pastures and orange groves. And we did our field trips at school to dairy farms, or dairies, excuse me, and then Rawhide Ranch was the highlight of our 6th grade trip, riding horses and just getting to know animals and showing, and I loved it, and I knew that's what I wanted for my family. So fast forward, all of a sudden, who comes in? The developers. My orange groves are gone, my cow pastures are gone, and I'm heartbroken. And I then, fast forward a little bit more, met my awesome husband who grew up in a rural equestrian area as well in 4-H, and we knew we wanted to get someplace where we could recreate that. And so, fast way forward, we found Bartonville. And what I love about Bartonville is that everything, and I don't want to change it, but what I found out is the politics of Bartonville have become an issue, and that is one thing I do want to address as mayor.
Thank you, Bridget. We're going to begin the questions in rotating order. We begin with Jacqueline Carrington. You have 1 minute to answer, and of course you have a 30-second rebuttal if you choose to. The question is, what would you consider your strongest leadership skill, and how would it benefit the town?
I think communicating with the citizens and keeping an open door. If somebody asks you for information or asks you to help them, that you get back with them within 24 to 48 hours rather than just saying, yeah, it's on my list, I'll let you know about that. Communicating with, the judge, other mayors in surrounding towns, just coordinating things like that, I think. Also, the budget.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Same question, Bridgette Nelson.
You know, what makes a good leader are a few things. Definitely making sure to listen to the residents, but with that, there needs to be a leadership component upon that, and you ultimately need to make decisions and then bring them to council. The other thing is definitely meeting with other mayors, especially with First Ranch going in. I know Derek France of Flower Mound, and we communicate regularly, so I know what's happening, and so I can protect the town of Bartonville. Being involved in local politics for many years, I know it's very important. If you want to keep your town the way it is, you also have to deal and have relationships with the politicians and the people in charge, Judge Eads, Commissioner Edmondson, and so you can make sure you know what's going on, so we can alert all of you, or even better yet, if you don't want to know about it, let's go to council and let's talk about it, and let's get the issues on the agenda and give you guys a voice. So I will lead with respect, transparency, and integrity, and I think that's what goes in to be a leader.
Thank you, Bridgette. We begin the next question with you, and the question is, what strategies do you feel best preserve the rural nature of Bartonville, and what threatens that?
Like I said in my opening statement, strategy-wise, I want to keep Bartonville the way it is. It doesn't need to change. And again, we are surrounded, and I call them by the wolves, the development wolves. And in order to keep it this way, can you say that again? Can you repeat the question?
Sure.
Or say the question again?
What strategies do you feel would best preserve the rural nature of Bartonville, and what threatens that?
Right. So with all of that, definitely keeping with the current land use plan, not changing that, but also making sure everybody feels supported and heard.
Thank you, Bridgette. Same question, Jacqueline Carrington.
Thank you. I would say keeping the current land use plan intact the way it is, with the 2 acre and the 5 acres kind of spread around. I think we have a little bit more 2 acre minimums than 5, but if you allow, I think I said this a minute ago, but if you allow the 5 acres to drop down to 2 acre minimums, then you lose your open spaces and the farms and the country feel for the town. So I think it's very important to adhere to the current land use plan.
Thank you, Jacqueline. The next question, we begin with you. The question is, Bartonville has seen nefarious acts related to the mayoral election over past several weeks. These alleged acts include nails in driveways, damage to car tires, and campaign sign vandalism. If elected mayor, how do you plan to bring the town together?
I think being involved with the town and keeping an open line with the citizens is of utmost importance. I think you have to have, your citizens and your council members have to feel like, I think they need to be able to feel like they can come to you and talk to you about things like that. And I think if things are smooth with the citizens, then you won't have these things happening.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Same question, Bridgette Nelson.
Yeah, you know, we moved here 6 years ago, and I've been involved on many levels. And this has, you know, made me sad, of course, as a councilwoman, as a resident, as a mom, as a wife. My kids have had to see some things going on, and I don't want to go into it because there are open, you know, police investigations. But honestly, what I'm seeing for the first time as I dive deeply into this campaign and throw myself into it is there's a bit of a division. Whether it's north to south, east to west, there's a division in this town. And one of the things I'm going to do is address that. Do I think the majority of Bartonville residents are incredible? Absolutely, 99.999% amazing. And I don't even know if it is outsiders coming in, but whatever it is, I want the division to be gone and I want unity to prevail. And that's gonna be a priority when I'm mayor.
Thank you, Bridgette. The next question begins with you. If elected, how will you ensure and enhance transparency and communication in local government?
Great question. I think we have amazing transparency, honestly. The only part what I'd like to see is, again, there's a small group I've noticed of citizens, and I would love to figure out why there's such division with that group. Why do I know so much about this? I will tell you, serving on council, and I just think here's transparency. I have received phone calls after I didn't vote a certain way on council that I'm done in this town, and I quote, I have received a few voicemails that tells me what to write on my campaign letters, what not to write on my campaign letters. Things like that, what to post on social media, what not to post on social media. And quite frankly, if we want to unite this town, we need to figure out a way through and past that, because I'm all about family friendly, I'm all about all citizens having a voice, but we need to bring that out, make it transparent, and deal with it.
Thank you, Bridgette. Same question for Jacqueline Carrington.
I think the transparency has improved quite a bit in the last 8 to 10 years compared to what it was with a previous government. I think it can always be improved upon, and I think a good way to do that is, again, to keep an open door with the residents and try to get them on committees and boards and get them to volunteer in the town so that people know. Maybe communicating also through more emails, town blasts, things like that let people know what's happening, what's on the agendas, things to alert the citizens, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Jacqueline. Same, the question, the next one goes to you, and it's, are you privately meeting or do you have any relationship with any developers or builders?
I do not. I'm not meeting with any builders, or
Okay.
I don't have any kind of relationship of any kind with any builders or developers.
Okay, the same question would be for Bridgette Nelson.
I absolutely do not.
Well, that makes that, that ends that quickly. All right, we begin the next one with Bridgette Nelson, and the question is, building consensus is paramount as a leader. How would your peers on council rate you in that category?
I have absolutely loved serving on council since 2019, and before that, the Crime Prevention Board. I really, personally, in my life, haven't had a lot of enemies, and I've loved serving. I've loved everyone. I've been, I love hanging out with Jacqueline on the board. I would just, yeah, I would continue, I think, to keep an open mind, listen to everybody. And then as mayor, we have to put that all together, meet with whoever we need to, engineer, professionals, make a choice, put it on the agenda, and get it out and let the council go from there.
Thank you, Bridgette. Same question, Jacqueline Carrington.
Bob, would you repeat that, please?
Sure. Building consensus is paramount as a leader. How would your peers on council rate you in that category?
I think I'd get pretty high ratings in that area. I think it's important to get along with your peers. I think the council needs to respect you as a leader of the town, and I think that's real important, as well as the citizens. I think should the respect should go both ways, of course, but I think that's something that's earned. So.
Thank you, Jacqueline. The next question begins with you, and it is, do you think the town has an adequate police force?
I do. We just approved 24/7 coverage, I guess, last August with this current budget that we're in right now, budget season that we're in right now. By mid-May, we'll have full coverage 24/7, and yes, I think we have very good police force.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Same question, Bridgette Nelson.
Yes, I absolutely back our law enforcement, our men and women in blue. I'm so glad we were able to approve to get up to 6 officers so we can get that 24/7 coverage. And I often get asked, I get 2 sides of this, from the Bartonville residents. Number one, why do we need police? We're safe, we're good. Crime's low here. And then, of course, the other side, when are we going to get more police? To what I say is we are a community that is safe and well taken care of because of our votes, because of what the council has approved, and that is why we're safe. We've got all of this going in. One thing you guys got to remember, we've got all this development, right? We've got Vickery, we've got Sonic going in, we've got Argyle. We have so much going in. So because of that, we've got to keep Bartonville protected, and I am 100% for every member of the police department that we have, and I'll continue to support it.
Thank you, Bridgette. The next question begins with you, and it is, are there any town services or amenities not being currently provided that you feel would benefit citizens?
We just approved getting internet, high-speed internet for everybody. I think, to me, that was the last thing that was brought to council that I agreed everybody should have. And unfortunately, we had a resident that paid thousands of dollars to bring that to their own home, and I felt horrible because we approved it right after that. But, if there's anything else, I would love to hear, but nothing that's been brought to our attention.
Thank you, Bridgette. Same question, Jacqueline Carrington.
I can't think of anything, Max. I'm sorry, Bob. As Bridgette was saying, we just approved high-speed internet, I think, for Latigo, Brattlebit, over in that area. There were 30 or 40 homes over there that I didn't have any internet access. So we just approved that. Go ahead. Were you going to say something? Okay.
No.
So, no, I can't think of anything else.
Looks like you have everything.
We're spoiled.
We don't have a tattoo parlor, Bob.
Good. All right. We begin with Jacqueline for the next question. In what cases, if any, should you disregard advice from the town attorney?
I don't think you should ever disregard the advice from the town attorney. I think he's there to protect the town and to mitigate liability issues, and I think you should always follow the advice of the town attorney.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Same question, Bridgette Nelson.
Yeah, the town attorney is there definitely to give us legal advice. We have Ed Voss, who gives us extremely conservative legal advice, and it's great. It's pretty spot on. I think it's not that you're disregarding it, but sometimes if something comes up, I think independent thinking is okay as long as you make sure to dot your I's and cross your T's, perhaps, give Ed a call and say, here are my concerns. Can you address these? Because I just had a thought. And part of being mayor, I think you have to have that leadership quality and be willing to not just sit there and say, okay, but go ahead and ask, what about this? What about this? Always consulting with him, but also having an open mind and having a mind of your own to make decisions that are best for the community.
Thank you, Bridgette. For the last question, we begin with you. As mayor, it's important to have good relationships with leaders of neighboring towns. How would you rate your ability to build and maintain those relationships?
I love this question. If most of you who know me know I'm Miss Social Butterfly. I love people. My heart is for the people. And whenever I can get in front of people, I will do it. I love meeting with the leaders. I make it a point to meet with other mayors. I'm making it a point. I have an appointment next week with Judge Eads, Diane Edmondson. Whether or not you love or hate these people, which I really get along with all of them, it is extremely important to know what's coming, to know what is going on around you. Again, look at all the development coming. Bartonville is no longer in the country. It is country, and it needs to stay that way. But we've got to watch it. We've got to absolutely know what's going on with our surrounding leaders, and that is one thing I thrive on doing. I love to do. I ask pointed questions, and I will work for Bartonville to continue to do that.
Thank you, Bridgette. Same question, Jacqueline Carrington.
Thank you. I have not been out meeting, and I know Andy Eads, but I've not been out meeting people because I'm not yet mayor. If I become mayor, I'll certainly be happy to do that. And I think that that's really important to have good relationships with, mayors of surrounding towns, as well as County Commissioner and Andy Eads, of course. So I don't think that'd be a problem at all.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. We'll now have closing statements in reverse order. You have 1 minute, beginning with Bridgette Nelson.
Well, thank you again for coming. I would love your vote. I would love to be mayor. As you can see, it's just a passion to serve. Has been since I was a little girl, and it will continue until the day I die. I moved here because Bartonville is so incredible. It is a gem. And I want to be mayor so every single citizen has a voice. Every single citizen. Not just a few of you, not just a few hundred, but all of you, all 1,600 and whatever it is. I care about families, I care about first responders, equestrians, seniors, everybody. I want to bring a little bit more spirit to Bartonville, but keep everything else the same. And if you want to understand my heart, I want you to go around dusk over to the Bartonville store, and I want you to stand in front of that mural. And I want you to just focus on that and think about Mr. Barton in 1878 when he created this town and he started developing the little stores and the cotton gin. And I want you to stand there and just really understand what Bartonville is about.
Thank you, Bridgette. Jacqueline Carrington, your 1 minute close, please.
Thank you. I feel like I'm the best mayor candidate because I have more experience in town government. I've lived here 32 years, served on the council 8 years, and I've served as mayor pro tem 4 years. My voting record demonstrates that I've always voted to keep Bartonville country and protect our rural atmosphere. I've always voted for safety, in favor of safety issues. I've always listened to the voice of the citizens. I'm fiscally conservative and knowledgeable about the budget. I feel like I'm well prepared to serve as your mayor, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. And thank you to the candidates. If you would give them a round of applause, please. Just a reminder that tonight's forum is being recorded by Lantana Community Church and can be viewed at CrossTimbersGazette.com. Please visit the Cross Timbers Gazette website at www.CrossTimbersGazette.com, on Facebook and Twitter for the latest Southern Denton County news updates. And remember, local lives here. This concludes the program. Thank you to the candidates, thank you to the Lantana Community Church, and thank you all for attending. Good evening.